think we should wave off the drone.
I want it there.
One can bring him in by themselves.
I want it there, belt and braces.
Right, done. OK, where are we?
For me, virtual production technology is very, very exciting. It creates these new opportunities for collaboration because ultimately you can all then end up on the set, all looking at the same thing, all making creative decisions which have meaning and stick with the rest of the film.
What the system does is it takes decisions that might be made in post-production when the designer's not on board. It brings them into production. It brings them back onto your plate. By making all of those creative choices up front and by locking in and being certain, they're all related to that storytelling conversation at the start of a project. They're not having to become once remembered thoughts later. And that's incredibly satisfying, you know, like just knowing that that's the sketches I did.
I think green screen always has been fraught with difficulties because the DP's rarely there at the beginning of the conversation and he's almost never there for the VFX part at the end of the conversation. So I think that kind of dilutes how stylised or how much intent you put into it. I think you tend to play it a bit safe because you're never quite sure where they're going to go with it. Whereas with this, you know, it's in camera, so it's the same as being on location, essentially. So, you know, it's wildly different and much more satisfying. There's nothing worse than shooting green screen, isn't it? It's sort of the death of creativity.
For the most part, I found that there was a lot more that I could do, which I hadn't even guessed at, than things which I really wanted and found that I couldn't do. There was almost nothing that I couldn't do. And I found all these other things that opened up the world. Right now, we are the people like myself and my collaborators on Fireworks. There's other people making productions, there's TV shows that are beginning to use this technology. You know, we're the pioneers. We're sort of like, we're climbing up the top of the mountain to see what's there, and we don't quite know what's there yet. We just sort of, the summit's beginning to come in sight.
Where I'd like to see it go is, you know, as the fidelity increases of the walls and the compute increases to allow us to represent ever more complex scenes on those walls, we can get to a point where we can present digital virtual humans on that in the scene as well. And then how does that change the filmmaking if you can potentially have an interplay between a real character, a real actor and someone or something else on the wall?
There are children.
We have a vehicle approaching the target's residence.
Virtual production is another tool that will always remain part of the VFX pipeline from this point forward.
There's going to be a whole new class of digital production artists that don't yet exist.
You know, this technology is just going to become more and more kind of prevalent, and the requirement for these people, these roles, is going to become greater.
So yes, it will change, but I do ultimately feel very much that what will always be the same, no matter what tech you have, no matter what previs you have, films will always be about responding to actors giving performances, about emotions that people can relate to, and telling stories.
I should be on the ground. Well, you're not.
There are children in there. Shouldn't we be discussing...
There are children everywhere, Pep.
I've been asked a couple of times whether this way of filming limited how I wrote it, and actually it was the opposite. There were more possibilities than I imagined. I think it's really exciting where this technology can go, and I think it has genuine storytelling potential.
This isn't just a virtual backdrop. There are opportunities in the way you deliver narratives. That's exciting. I think that's one of the things where it feels like that's where the future is really bright, is the stuff that you couldn't achieve conventionally.
Bravo 1 at minimum safe.
Try and think about it as, what does this give to me as a filmmaker? Where can I go now because I've got this? And I think the answer is you can go anywhere. You just got to figure out where it is you want to go.